Howdy, y'all, and welcome to the EEARSS Podcast. I am AlligatorRobb. I am joined by Bill and Cindy. How are you guys doing?
Another day in paradise.
Living the dream.
There you go. Anything exciting been happening in the educational world since the last week we've been here?
No, other than, Monday we had the Artemis launch attempt. And because it was scheduled to be so close to the start of school time, they allowed students to be out with a parent excuse, and a large portion of our student body took them up on it.
So that was an excused absence?
Yeah, we had 12. Well, it was a parent excused absence, which is a little weird. You really don't want to go into it. But
there's two different things there.
I still don't understand it. So.
Well, you're allowed in block scheduling. You're allowed 4 absences, and if they are parent excused, then if the parent writes a note, little Johnny wasn't feeling well, then we won't call home because we know that the parent knows that the student was out. Where if the student misses 4 days and we don't have parent notes, we're going to call mom and dad and say, Mom and Dad, little Johnny hadn't been coming to school. And then they're going to say, oh, well, I knew that, and we're okay. Or that's news to me, and maybe they will deal with little Johnny. But it's just one of the days that you're allowed.
Either way, it sounds like it's kind of sort of okay, depending on who the parents are.
Oh, yeah, and it's fine. But we had 1,200 kids who go here, and we had 200 show up. So
wow.
So it was a very small day.
Wow.
Yeah.
I ain't seen the likes of that in 80 years probably.
Oh, no. We saw it before John Glenn Day, when John Glenn went up on the shuttle.
Yeah. All right, gotcha.
On that day, we had 2,000 students, and 72 showed up.
Wow.
On that day. Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Cindy, what about you? What's been going on? All things exciting?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Trying to think.
He always asks, and I'm always like, you don't want me to start talking about how work has been. Nobody wants that.
I started a weird little project. I don't know how to even really state it. Some guys from the University of North Georgia reached out to me last week. There are a bunch of paleontologists that are working on a dig in Georgia, and they've been digging up mammoths and all kinds of cool stuff, and they dug up some ancient crocodilians, and they don't know if they were freshwater animals or saltwater animals or estuarine animals, so they asked me to send them some teeth from some gators that were for sure animals that came from fresh salt and then brackish. So they're going to do some DNA work and see what they can find. It's pretty cool.
Where'd they find them at?
Some marsh along the coast, the southeast coast of Georgia. So yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
Oh wow!
They sent me some really neat pictures. I'm like, historically, it wasn't that far back that there were crocodiles that went all the way up into the North and South Carolina area. So I told them it's not impossible that they were looking at ancient crocodiles. So some neat stuff. I don't know. Every day's a new one for me, pretty much. I enjoy it. Always different. You guys ready to get into this?
We're ready.
Yes, sir.
Stop talking about mammoths for a second and get talking into some stuff that's happening nowadays. All right. So today we are joined on the podcast by Miss Tara Gibson. Tara, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you being here.
For sure. Thank you guys so much for having me. I am so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you. I remember discussing you once with Cindy, and her exact words were, oh my gosh, we have to have her on here. She is everywhere all the time doing everything. She is an amazing woman. We have to talk to her. I said, you got it. We're 100% going to talk to her.
Oh, that's what's up. I appreciate the love, Cindy. I really do appreciate it.
No, really happy to have you here. So tell us a little bit about you and your background, and let's start there.
Yeah, why not? Let's do it. Again, I'm excited to be here. And when you mentioned Southeast Georgia, I'm like, that's my hometown. That's my former stomping ground, Brunswick, Georgia. So shout out Brunswick, Glenn County.
There you go.
But yeah, I've been in the Central Florida area for the most of my life. My mom moved us down here when I was in middle school. So I kind of grew up here, went to school in Orlando area, and been in Brevard County since 2017. Yeah.
Okay.
So starting to let my branches, fly out over the county now. So I'm starting to do more work within the community.
So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us what you do.
Yeah. So it's funny, it's kind of like, what don't I do, right, Mr. D?
Everything. The answer is everything.
Yeah. So what don't I do? My whole life, like, you know, AKA Coach T, right? And that's my branding name. But background in athletics. I love sports. Basketball is my sport, like my main sport. And in doing that, I have mentored people, not just student athletes, but people in general, old people, young people, people in the middle, right? And so what I did recently within 2020 is, you know, I got together with a couple business partners, and we decided to put, you know, a label on it, right, and make it official. And so since then, I've really been extending our brand reach, because not only do I want to mentor people, but I want to mentor communities. And so that's kind of been the work that I've been doing within the community. And I felt like the best way to do that for us is to team up with influencers within the community to help them bring their visions to life. So. And
what's that organization called?
So it's All Black. So we have All Black Impact Foundation, and we have the All Black LLC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we have two of them. Like Miss Cindy said, we doing it, right?
So, you know, you said you had a background in coaching.
Yeah.
I'm sure that your background in coaching has a big influence on the way you do things business-wise every day. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Like the influence coaching has in everything you do?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you brought that up, because so many people think because you coach that they see you're on the court, and that's what they see, right? They don't know behind the scenes. There's so much more administrative work. There's so much more like people skills. Like it takes so much more than just coming out and calling a play for, you know, to run. Like it's managing personalities, it's recruiting the right type of players, it's making sure students are going to class and getting their education. And then, you know, I coached at every level. My biggest accomplishment was coaches with the Dallas Mavericks, their G League team. I was there with Hall of Famer Nancy Lieberman. And so that's like my biggest accomplishment, because I was determined to coach men. And so that kind of led me that way. But again, the business side of it, those skill sets are transferable. Right. So the skill sets that I use in regards to running a program can actually is helping me run a business.
Okay. So what do you find, you know, the biggest strengths were from coaching that you carry over?
People skills.
People skills?
Yeah. Learning how to read people, learning how to coach people, also to marketing, recruiting, because when you're coaching at the college level, you have to recruit players. Right. And you're recruiting, which means you are competing against other colleges, right? And so for me I have to sell a player why you want to come play for me, right? And so those are the things that we had to put together. We had to have a culture that we had to sell, right? And create that culture, bring players in, talk to the parents, you know, because parents are involved, want to make sure like, hey, when I drop my kid off, they're going to be in a good, safe place, and they're going to do what I want them to do, right? It hasn't always been perfect, but I can say we're in the 90% in my coaching career of our students doing well and graduating and moving on. That's amazing. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it, because it's kind of unheard of, and we kind of pride ourselves. And I say we because it's not just me, but the coaching staffs I was on. I served under some great head coaches and learned a lot from them, as well as being a head coach myself. So all of that kind of played a role in it. But tell us a little bit about that. You said you served under a lot of great head coaches. Tell me about some things you picked up from them. Yeah, so me, so I kind of, in the beginning when I was young, I coached like I played, just, you know, just hard-nosed, kind of get after it. I like to win, hate losing. But my best friend, and she coaches at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University now. She's the head coach there. Coaching under her leadership, she taught me a lot of how to balance that out, right? And not just be so, you know, like that, and kind of finding that balance because sometimes you have to learn when to turn that on and off, because everybody doesn't respond to that type of coaching. All players take it a little bit differently. Yeah. And so even though I meant well, some of my intentions were hurting players because it caused them to shut down, right? And so then we're not maximizing their potential. And, you know, when you're dealing with student athletes at that young age, they're so impressionable, right? And so you have to understand the power that you have as a leader and how to use that power. Interesting you say that. So I know in talking to you that you're a proud woman of faith. And tell us a little bit about how your faith comes into everything you do. How you use that for your everyday stuff. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was so excited that you asked me that, because I was watching your last episode, and the young lady that was on before, she was talking about, she doesn't understand how people can live life without having, you know, founded in Christ. And I'm not knocking what anybody else does. I respect everybody, but I know for me too, I don't know like how people make it without being founded in Christ. Like that is like, I mean, I can't even like explain how my days have to start with him, end with him. I say Jesus my homeboy. He's my imaginary friend. I tell people I have an imaginary friend. He's sitting right here with us right now. Y'all don't even see him, but he right here right now. I'm praying when I'm walking in. You know, I'm praying before we started. Like, that is like, I'm a Jesus freak. That's my life. And I say freak, but I'm not like over, you know, there's different types of people, fanatics in religion, but I'm the kind, I feel like I just kind of sit right there in the middle where I can respect anybody else's religion, but still know who I am in Christ.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
Yep.
For sure.
So, you know, we've had JT Hassel on here before,
Yep.
and we've had Romeo Crouch on here before, and talked to them both. And your organization represents them both.
Yeah, so those are my boys, right? And you know, when I think about the other day, when I think about all the people I've helped in my life, I'm like, man, I've helped a lot of people. Like, you know, bro, I didn't really realize it, but yeah. So they're people that we help in regards to brand management. Even with Romeo, like just taking Romeo, he's a great player, but you'd be fascinated that they don't know what to do though to pursue that next level of pro career, right? So him, you know, teaming up with me, allowing me to help him is you know, helped him extend his brand reach, helped him to get the exposure that he needed to get his career off in the right way. Because just because you think you're a great player doesn't mean it just happens. Like, people think they graduate college, okay, I got a degree.
Now what?
Yeah. Like, well, you got to apply. You should have been networking. You should have all of these things in place so you can have a degree and transition to a corporate job or whatever it is you want to do, right? So these players, a lot of them don't understand that next level, what it takes. They think I'm great. It's just going to fall in my lap. No, it's not happening.
They're used to being that star that they were in high school, and then
Yes.
they get to that age level where they realize, well, there were a lot of high school stars, and now
Yep.
you're all competing for the same very limited spots.
Yeah. And that pro level is a lot different. Like, it's a lot harder, difficult. And then being in position at his level, being a guard, Romeo, it's even more because they come a dime a dozen. So, and even too, if I can say with JT, like, the more so as a fan, I love NFL. I watch it as a fan, but getting to know JT and seeing the behind the scenes stuff, like, those players go through so much trying to sustain at that level.
It's a rough way to make a living.
It is. NFL, not for long. Man, for real. Like, when you get that behind the scenes look and see what they're going through and what they have to endure to even try to make a practice squad or the roster, I have much more mad respect for JT, because not only did he make it with having just 2 fingers on his left hand, but he's been able to sustain that level of play and, you know, be on a team.
It's got to be super mentally challenging, all that stuff. So let's say you have a young athlete that's coming up, and you see that they're going to be going to the next level, and they approach you and they're looking for help. What are some of the first sets of advice you give to them?
My first thing is, when I, you know, talk to athletes, is I have to hear their mindset, right? Because I can't help everybody, especially if your mindset is not aligned to be coached. If your mindset is, you know, not mature enough to handle it, because that next level is huge. Like, I've seen some great players not make it, not because they couldn't play, but because they didn't have the mindset to endure what it takes, right? And it's not just performance on the court, but my advice to them is making them understand a general idea of what the journey will take to get there, right? So what are your goals? Okay, where you are right now. Okay, you want to play college? This is what it has to take. Academics is huge play. I don't care if you're LeBron James. If you don't have academics, you're not going to make it, right? Not just to get in, but to stay in, because you have to stay eligible year after year, right? And then after that, like you just said, every time you level up, you start at the bottom, right? You start at the bottom, and so you got to earn them stripes. And some players, that's why so many kids transfer, because they think they're going to come in and be like they were in high school and be the star and get the ball and get the attention. No, there's seniority. You got to wait your turn.
yeah.
You're the new kid.
Yeah, you have to wait your turn, and some people can't handle that, and that's, again, another mental transition that you have to understand and be ready for.
Oh yeah, and I've seen it when you're on a high school campus and you are the star.
Right.
You're the big fish in the little pond, and then you go to the big pond, and you're treated differently. And like you said, there's some people that can handle that and can adjust to it, and there's some that's just devastating to.
It is.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Yep.
I've seen that from the coaching side too. You get players that are used to being the top tier, and they get there and they're not the top tier anymore. Maybe they're not even second; they're third or fourth or less.
Or they're having
yeah.
to work harder than they've
Yep.
had to work before, And there's some that clicks a light and they kick it in, and there's others that just, refuse to do it. And so I would imagine that has something to do with like the kind of criteria you look for when you're deciding who you're working with.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not that they have to be the best player or whatever, but they have to have the mindset, right? They have to have a heart for people too, right? Because it can't just be all about you. Because playing any team sport or any sport in general, you have to be able to have a heart for others around you, right? Because when others rise, we rise together. Sorry. So those are the kind of things that I look for. But I'm just really like kind of open to, even if I don't take someone under my wing, I'm still available to help mentor and guide them, if that makes sense. Because I don't never want to turn anyone away, right? But
Sure.
again, it's only certain levels that I can help them rise to.
Right.
And we were talking about this one time before when you and I talked. You have a student you're mentoring or an athlete that's even higher up, and they're trying to make up their mind what their passion is outside of sports. How do you help them guide that?
Wow, that is a really great question, because I went through that with JT. When I first connected with JT, he really didn't have where he wanted to like just hone in on. So I'm like, well, let me take the lead this time. And our first camp we did with him was focused on dental care awareness, because I feel like in our communities, dental care is overlooked. Like, it's a really important part of living a healthy life. So we did that, but soon after he calls me, he's like, I know what I want to do. And he'll tell the story too, because after that first camp we ever did with him, he had a breakdown. And he's like, when he had that breakdown, he realized that it caused him to reflect back on his life. And he was like, okay, this is what I want to tackle. This is what I want to do. Why? Because one, it's personal. And two, he can see how it can help others within their life to be better, especially kids. So really, and I'm working with that with Romeo too, trying to figure out, okay, Romeo, what is it that you're passionate about? What is it that, you want to, put your stake into? And so we're still working on that. But again, I just try to lead them. I give them a little bit at a time, just to try to spark different things. As I get to know them and see their personality, sometimes I see things in them that they may not see. And so I'm like, hey, have you thought about this? Or, hey, have you thought about that? Or, so because I need them to own it, because if they don't own it, it's not going to flourish like it should.
Yeah. The work that you are doing is so amazing and so important. Because yes, we're here talking about how you coach athletes, but you don't coach athletes. Being an athlete is just one aspect of their overall life. You're mentoring humans that are part of communities that are struggling like ours. And communities change from within.
Yes.
They change from people having hope and seeing somebody that inspires them to know that they can make a difference. And that, yeah, you might have been through some stuff, but you can move forward from that and you can make good come from that. And that's just... After we met you, when you came here with JT, I was like, Frank, we have to have her. We have to.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that, because it's true. Like, as a coach too, I've heard, and you may have heard it too, though, I have parents come up to me all the time. Can you talk to Johnny? Because when I tell him, he doesn't listen. But when you tell him, oh my God, it's like, the parting of the Red Sea, And so when I had parents kept telling me that, I'm like, I have to use my platform bigger than ball, right? And so that's really kind of why I want to work with athletes. One, because I feel like it's in my gift, because I love athletics, right? It's my passion, right? I found purpose in my passion. And then also, people look up to athletes or professional athletes or influencers, celebrities, whatever it may be. They do, like, we value what they say for whatever reason, how our human culture is. And so I'm like, well, why not just use what I'm already have access to help people be better? So that's why our camp's not only just a football camp, but we teach mental health. The camp we did in Miami with the Dolphins player, that was a mental health financial literacy camp, right? So it's not just, come play football, but it's like, no, while we have their attention, let's pour into them, right?
You have to.
Yeah,
you have to. So you speaking about all this stuff, early on in your sports career, did you have somebody that helped mold you the same way, that kind of helped push you toward who you are now?
Absolutely not.
Really? There wasn't?
Absolutely not. And that's why I'm so passionate.
That's the why.
Yes, ma'am.
That's epic.
Yes, ma'am. And I was, I'm telling on myself, but I was bad. I was bad. I was a bad, define bad teammate, Tara, right there. If you didn't catch my passes, I'm pouting. Temper tantrum on the court. The coach left me on the court, though, because I was the best player, which I knew. I'm the best player, but bad teammate. And I always look back and I wish somebody would have, people tried, but because at first I had this wall up, so it wasn't so easy. And they would try, and then they hit my wall, and then they would leave me. And I just really always hoped that somebody would just stay and see past that wall that I had up as a kid. Like, she just has a wall up. Just stay, be consistent, and just be there and let me know that they care, to give me that safe space to open up.
When did it click for you?
It never clicked, unfortunately, until
Never clicked in your athletic career?
Nope,
Really?
it did not.
So it
No.
wasn't until you started coaching, or
Yep.
until you were told just at athletics in general, or
Coaching, when I started coaching.
Okay. And
started
did you see another player that was kind of like you that maybe got you?
What happened was, honestly, was one of my first coaching stints, and we were before practice, we were just kind of shooting around with the players and stuff. And I don't know how we got on a conversation about God, right? We got on a conversation about God, and one of my players said, "What is that?" Or, what are we talking about? And I'm like, what do you mean? What are we talking about? Like, Jesus. Like, you don't know who Jesus is? No. Dead serious. Like, dead serious. And she was looking at me, and she was African American. And so me growing up I'm just thinking all black people know about Jesus, just a stereotypical thing. And she didn't know. And that just stuck with me since then. I'm like, I got to do more. Like, I got to be better. And so from that point on, in my Christ walk and stuff like that, I just started to be more better about not preaching the gospel, but just being more intentional and purposeful about how I coach and how I build people up.
That's very special.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I
Yeah.
like it a lot. You guys ready to jump into some trivia?
I'm gonna
Okay.
try.
So
Yeah.
Cindy's going to officially hate me for this trivia.
Is it sports?
It is.
Come on.
Sports.
Come on. Give me a local
It's-
nonprofit trivia. Let's do that.
Okay, I can work to that. I can next week. I'll work to that. So this is coaching trivia. Yeah, coaches trivia. Coaching trivia, coaches trivia.
Okay.
All right, yeah, here we go. So number 1, the all-time leader in wins as a coach for the Orlando Magic with 267 wins and coached 459 games is who?
I only know the name of one, I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Say,
No.
it.
Say the one name you know. Say it.
Say the one you know.
Yeah, say it.
Stan Van Gundy. That's not it.
That's who I would have said too.
That is wrong.
Okay.
But that's
so
a
we're
great
both
guess.
wrong.
That's
It
a
is a
great
good
guess.
It is a great guess. It was my guess too. So there we go.
And I'm thinking of the guy, and I see his face, and I can't think of his name, and I'm like, I know when I was on the other side of the window, I was killing it.
Oh, you were. And
So
it
now
was-
I'm in the spotlight, and I'm like, man, I'm
It was
sitting here like,
the stuff you were killing too was Orlando Magic trivia.
It
So that's the reason I went back to that. I'm like, oh, 100% she'll have this.
oh man.
He was coach during a lot of the big runs with Nick Anderson and all those guys.
Oh.
Dennis
Is
Scott.
it Brian?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, Brian Hill.
Oh, that's right, Brian Hill.
Yeah,
I
Brian Hill.
forgot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Orlando Magic team leader and playoff games coached was who?
Oh, there you go. Say your name. Say your name, because he's.
Stan Van Gundy.
It is Stan Van Gundy. Wow,
Yay.
Cindy's killing the sports trivia. Wow.
Who would have thought?
Oh my goodness gracious, it killed me. Sorry. Number 3, that was really good. The team's only coach to win NBA Coach of the Year was who? Orlando Magic only had one coach ever that won Coach of the Year. That won Coach of the Year. Sounds like he was crying about it. Who was that?
Man, I'm gonna go with the Van Gundy again. I can't really think about it.
It's somebody different, and he's a very he was a player himself, and a very famous coach with a lot of teams.
Doc Rivers.
Indeed, Doc Rivers.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
I forgot.
He was a really short stint.
It was,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
was very sad because he was a great coach.
He was.
And
Well, he still is.
Yeah, still is.
Yeah.
Yep, still is a great coach. On May 29th, 2015, the Magic hired whom as their 12th head coach, and he resigned for one season. He was also a former player.
Florida. Was he Florida coach? No.
Former player of the Magic as well.
No, it's Scott Skiles.
It was Scott Skiles.
Scott. Okay.
Yep, was there for one season and then quit.
You know, I went to Orlando Magic game. You know, when they were first and Scott was playing,
Yeah.
and after the game, he came out on the floor, and he had big old bags of ice taped on each knee.
I heard
Yes.
that
It
about
was-
him.
It was like, this guy. It's amazing. His knees were so bad, and he played so hard.
He was a point guard, yes.
Mhm.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I
He,
thought so.
for a long time, he led the Magic in assists.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember he was very good.
Yes.
He was very, very good. Let's see. Oh, okay, here we go. I had to mix it up with one question. And I guaranteed I would have never known the answer to this either. Who was the first head coach of the Miami Dolphins? Just to be weird. I would have never, ever known the answer to that in a million years.
Well,
I
if
just-
you wouldn't, I certainly
Yeah,
Well-
I
won't.
just figured it was worth throwing out there. It's not Don Shula.
No, because
Yeah.
they were originally in the AFL,
They were, correct, yep.
so they weren't part of the NFL. They were, and I cannot imagine.
Yeah, I'd never even heard of the guy before. So
Oh, well, there we go.
yeah.
That's a great one.
yeah.
I'm just thinking here, like, where in the world did you get this? But
That's,
His trivia question, like,
Well,
they're insane.
I like to do bafflers, so I'll get maybe 7 or 8 different little nuggets about a topic, and then I'll put them all together and ask people and make sure they're not Googleable, and literally put it on the internet until people will figure it out. And it'll take
Days
yeah,
of
take
hundreds
days.
of people trying. Like,
it's hysterical.
for sure.
It's good times. That's a fellow named George Wilson.
Oh, George, of course.
Yeah, of course, George Wilson. Yeah, who knows? Anyhow, I saw that and I'm like, never heard of George Wilson. Yeah,
He
never-
must have done very well
Yeah, exactly. That's the reason everybody knows Don Shula's name. Exactly. 'Cause
Exactly,
George
yeah.
did so well.
because George did so well.
Tara, thank you so much for being here. Didn't you say you have an event coming up?
Yeah, we do. So, like I said, our company does a lot. We just don't work with athletes, but we work with people in the community who may need help bringing their events to life. So we do have an event coming up with the Titusville Sunrise Rotary. It's Bikers Against Trafficking. It's a fundraiser event. And so the Titusville Sunrise Rotary is putting that on. And so we're helping them with all the logistics with that.
And when is that?
That is going to be November 5th from 12 to 3. It's going to be at the Holiday Inn. Space Coast, the one up there by
I got
Cracker
you.
Barrel.
Okay. And if people want to find out more about your organization, what's your website?
Yeah, it's www.allblackab.com.
Okay. And can they find you on social media anywhere?
Yes, they can. So I'm not really taking any more personal friends because there's so many duplicate accounts. I don't even know.
I
but-
lose track of it too.
Yeah,
it's a real
like
thing.
crazy.
It's a real thing.
But our handles, our social media handles are at allblack BOTG, boots on the ground. So those are social media handles: Facebook, IG,
okay.
Twitter.
Thank you so very much for being here.
Thank
Really,
y'all.
really appreciate you, what you do for our community, and just thank you very much.
For sure.
All right, guys. We'll catch you all next week. Bye-bye.